Alright, good morning Earthlings, how you doing? Welcome to First Contact Radio. We've made it to the end of the week. We've got a good show for you today. Peter Robbins is the guest. He's going to be on in about 30 minutes from now. In the meantime, let's get started with our news and information for today. Going to start things off, first of all, with space weather. Today, as you can see right now, our solar wind is only blowing at 373.5 kilometers per second, much lower than it was the last couple days. If you remember, it was in the 400s. And our KP index, we went over this yesterday, the KP index right now is at 1, and it's going to stay at about a 1 in the next 24 hours. So what this means is the activity that is taking place between the way that our planet is being hit by the electromagnetic energy from the sun and from out in the cosmos, and the way that that is affecting the energy that's being attracted to it from the Earth. It's very low. Very low energy today, very quiet. And you can see that it is reflected in our forecast. The M-class flares are very low, only 20% chance. And if you go down into the geomagnetic storm, we have only a 10% chance that we're going to have something. So very, very minor stuff today. Yesterday there was a return of one of these probes. Says the Shenzhou 8 returns to Earth. The unmanned Shenzhou 8 probe returned to Earth on November 17th, wrapping up a 3-week mission to China's Tiangong-1 space station. Shenzhou 8 spent its time in orbit practicing rendezvous and docking maneuvers, which is still new to China's upstart space program. Chinese authorities said the mission was a success. Tiangong-1 is still in orbit and may be seen flying through the night skies of North America this weekend. You can check the satellite tracker here. It'll give you that information. And of course, we are in the middle of the Leonids, so if you look up at the sky, you may get something interesting up there. Might be a good time to get a camera out. Who knows what you might see these days in the sky, right? Who knows, who knows, who knows. So I'm going to jump ahead over to UFO news. Let's get on with our business at hand. Here we go.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, here we go. We got 4 good stories for you. First story takes us to Australia, down under. All right, let's see here. What we have is the sighting that took place on the 17th. Let me play this for you. You see right in the middle of the screen. It's right here in the power lines at the moment. It's going to move, and you'll be able to get a better view of it. All right, you can see it just slowly moving above the lines now. And it is the object that we have seen so many times, the apparent bright white shining object. Could be circular, could be oval. Kind of looks like it's pulsating a little bit or something as it's moving. And of course, this is not like any conventional type of aircraft that we have, that we are aware of. Just something that can hover in that nature. Okay, that's our sighting down in Australia. Now, moving on to our next story. This has to do with the Russian Navy. It says the Russian Navy has declassified its records of encounters with unidentified objects, technologically surpassing anything humanity ever built. Reports Subdonyaya Pressa news website. The records dating back to Soviet times were compiled by a special news group collecting reports of unexplained incidents delivered by submarines and military ships. The group was headed by Deputy Navy Commander Admiral Nikolai Smov, and the documents reveal numerous articles of possible UFO encounters, the website says. Vladimir Azhaza, former Navy officer and famous Russian UFO researcher, says the materials are of great value. 50% of UFO encounters are connected with oceans, 15 more with lakes. So UFOs tend to stick to the water, he said. On one occasion, a nuclear submarine, which was on a combat mission in the Pacific Ocean, detected 6 unknown objects. After the crew failed to leave behind their pursuers by maneuvering, the captain ordered to the surface. The objects followed suit, took to the air, and flew away. Many mysterious events happened in the region of the Bermuda Triangle, recalls retired submarine commander Rear Admiral Yuri Bekhtov. Instruments malfunctioned with no apparent reason or detected strong inference. The former Navy officer says there could be deliberate disruption by UFOs. On several occasions, the instruments gave reading of material objects moving at incredible speed. Calculations show speed of about 230 knots of 400 kph, kilometers per hour. Speeding so fast is a challenge even on the surface, but water resistance is much higher. It was like the object defied the laws of physics. There's only one explanation. The creatures who built them far surpass us in development, Bekhtov says. Navy intelligence veteran Captain First Rank Igor Barclay comments, ocean UFOs often show up wherever our NATO's fleets concentrate, near Bahamas, Bermudas, Puerto Rico. They are most often seen in the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean, in the southern part of the Bermuda Triangle, and also in the Caribbean Sea. Another place where people often report UFO encounters is Russia's Lake Baikal, the deepest freshwater body in the world. Fishermen tell of powerful lights coming up from the deep and objects flying up from the water. In one case, in 1982, a group of military drivers training at Baikal spotted a group of humanoid creatures dressed in silvery suits. The encounter happened at a depth of 50 meters, and the divers tried to catch the strangers. 3 of the 7 men died, while 4 others were severely injured. I think about underwater bases, and I say, why not? Nothing should be discarded, says Vladimir Azaha. Skepticism is the easiest way. Believe nothing, do nothing. People rarely visit great depths, so it's important to analyze what they encounter there. Meanwhile, Russian Navy officers have denied the collection of UFO-related encounters exists. A source in the Navy service staff said the story may have its roots in the reports of vessel commanders, which describe locating objects of unclear but earthly origin. An illusion of a UFO encounter can result from large fish shoals, floating garbage, or natural phenomena. Itar TASS news agency cites the sources. So, very interesting article on what they're finding down there. Now we move over to a sighting which takes us to Seattle, Washington, and Kayenta, Arizona. This was on the 15th and the 16th of this month. Let's take a look at this here. This comes to us from Sheila Aliens. All right, and what we have here.
There's a couple UFO happenings that haven't quite made it into the mainstream news or locally, but I still find them kind of interesting. Something was going on the 15th of November in Seattle, Washington.
Good morning.
Okay. Let's just jam ahead here to see if we see anything here. Alright, I don't know if you're able to. Looks like we have the object right here. Question actually was reported in various ways by quite a few people. A bunch of us were discussing it on Twitter last night. Some people only saw the last object. Okay. So you can see this is quite a good sized video. It's 7 minutes in length. I'm gonna leave this to you to go ahead and check out the video. Here we go. It's a video of what they saw. And there it is up in the sky there. All right. So check it out. There's quite a sighting. Obviously, lots of reports to be able to see in this regards. Now, the last story here comes to us from UFO Digest. This is submitted by Ed Komarick, and it's about the Greys. And it's a story about the Greys. Please note that these chapters are subject to revision, so I'm not wasting time editing them to perfection. I will do that just before it goes to print. Here are links to the introduction chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's a good opportunity to read a book before it even gets out there. This is a way of having others check it over, see what they think. It says, Gray-driven advancements in genetic engineering, microbiology, and aerospace. There is speculation that the alien species known as the Greys are perhaps just as diverse and spread across the universe as are the human species. Therefore, it is important to paint what appears to be a vast network of Grey species with the same brush. As with cosmic humans, it seems that the Greys run the gamut from being highly predatory, using competitive win-lose tactics, to being cooperative and using win-win tactics. Abduction investigators investigating Grey activity seems to fall into two very contradictory camps: those that see threat, like David Jacobs, and those that see promise, like Stephen Greer and Carol Rosin and John Mack. It's possible both sides are right and both sides are wrong because of the diversity of the individuals in the groups of the Greys. Understanding this diversity, as with cosmic humans, is complicated by process of artificial evolution. Investigator and probable abductee George Lobono got me interested in the idea of a Grey collective, and he had this to say in this regard. Kraft is the first to outline a very large megapopulation directly and in detail. It possesses an overview of the Greys and the Roswell hybrids also. We should expect to see some large populations given the age of the universe and the way that Kepler satellite suggests an abundance of Earth-like planets. I'll state my experience with Verdance again. Among aliens, telepathic and remote sensing is considered a reliable evidentiary basis for data and reporting. I've interacted and criticized Verdance and their associated aliens for years. Even my kids have probably been abducted. For example, their stories of dreams about going up with aliens, after one of which I found a perfect lentil-sized scoop mark out of the sun's foot soles that absolutely wasn't there before. In years of interactions and rigorous remote probing and questioning of Verdance, it has been, as is all such interactions. I can see them, the inside of their craft faintly, and I hear urgent, clear critiques of them by other aliens. I can say that I know the manner, character, and behavior of some Verdance as well. I know that some of the humans with whom I have been acquainted for years, even more so actually, given that it is such interactions you resonate into their minds, not just seeing them visually, having interacted with them and some of their subpopulations. I have absolute zero doubt about their existence. Again, this is more alien-like contact where remote checking and detailed interactions are normal. Every day, every single day. I don't like to use ethical and moral terms like good and evil anymore to compare different races of extraterrestrials, because what the fox may consider moral and ethical, the rabbit, the fox's prey, might tend to disagree. I see morality and ethics as cohesive agreements that individuals or groups or even civilizations make between themselves, so as to be able to cooperate together and rise up to a higher level of factual above those that don't. Some investigators like George have come to call the agglomeration of alien species like the Grey Collective, the term for this very diverse group of individual groups and civilizations. Likewise, maybe we should call the agglomerate of galactic humans the Galactic Human Collective. Some evidence seems to suggest that these two collectives, and either other cosmic collectives, may be colliding and competing not only on Earth, but on a much larger universal playing field. As you can see, there's much more to the article. I'm going to encourage you to go read through the rest of it because there's a lot of good information here. The bottom line is you can't look at a species and think the whole species is bad or good based on the actions of a few. Earthlings wouldn't like it if all of your activities were looked upon as either good or bad by the species and the races that are out there looking down upon this planet. You would prefer that the aliens, the extraterrestrials, the space brothers, star nations, however you might want to call or refer to them, you might hope that they're looking down at you and realizing that there is a difference between some that are being good and some that are being bad. They might not even look at the terms good or bad. They might simply look at us in a different manner down here. They might look at the earthlings and might think that there is something going on deeper than the surface. And so they might try to have a better understanding of what you're about. So the bottom line is, don't judge the Greys just because you've heard some stories about them and abductions. Because there's also stories that go on that don't involve the Greys that are just as gruesome, with other types of abductions being done by the military. So just keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying. Keep an open mind. Because there's more to the story than meets the eye. Definitely is. Alright, that's our UFO news for today. Let me jump forward to a song. When we come back, I got a couple more stories and off to our interview. This is Wake Up.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brothers watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
Alright, it is time to demand the truth. And here is a bit of truth coming to us from Google. This is an article from out of the Atlantic, Rebecca J. Rosen. Google refuses to remove police brutality videos. Goes on, the head part here says, but the company could do more to explain why it chooses to deny certain requests and remove content and yet comply with others. Alright, here we go. From Google's latest transparency report contains this tantalizing bit. We received a request from a local law enforcement agency to remove YouTube videos of police brutality, which we did not remove. Separately, we received requests from a different local law enforcement agency for removal of videos allegedly defaming law enforcement officials. We did not comply with those requests, which we have categorized in this report as defamation requests. Good on Google. This report, reflecting for months from January to June this year, sets an important precedent, one that is surely relevant as videos of violent police behavior from the Occupy protest grow in number and play counts. With this report, Google seems to be indicating that users who post such videos have the company's protection. In places like Egypt and Tunisia, the spread of videos portraying government brutality seems to have galvanized protesters. If Google were able to take down such videos, that could have a powerful detrimental effect on the Occupy movement. But while Google turned down the requests it alludes to, it complies with 62% of the 92 requests for content removal and a whopping 93% of the 5,950 requests for the user data. Why complying with some and not with others, Google says. There are many reasons why we have not complied. Some requests may not be specific enough for us to know what the government wanted us to remove it. No URL is listed in the request, and others involve allegations of defamation through the informal letters from the government agencies rather than a court orders. We generally rely on courts to decide if a statement is defamatory according to local law. But Google will do more to help users understand their compliance standards and not just the reasons why it does not comply, but rather the reasons why when it does. Google breaks down government's requests by product, YouTube, Blogger, Gmail, etc., and reason, defamation, copyright infringement, violence, etc., and the number of items the requests relate to, but it doesn't say how many of each type of request was found to be legitimate. The only numbers relating to the compliance are 63% of the total content removal requests and 92% of total user data requests. But no finer granularity is available. The report does more for making government transparent than it does for making Google itself transparent. Google knows there is room for improvement. The transparency report has provided better data with each iteration, says Google. We would like to be able to share more information, but it's not an easy matter. It's a difficult task to categorize and quantify these requests in a way that adds meaningful transparency, but we may do so in the future. That's something we'll keep an eye out for. So they're making an effort. That's good. We like to see that they are standing out there and making sure that these videos aren't coming offline, because it's not right. If they're out there, if the police are out there using brutality and people are seeing this, why would it want to be hidden? That's not right. So whoever the agency is calling, they're trying to hide something they don't want people to see because they know that they're doing the wrong thing. Now, out of the military, we have a test of a weapon. This comes to us from the Atlantic.com. American Hypersonic Weapon test successful. The U.S. has test-fired a new weapon which can travel at 5 times the speed of sound, the Pentagon says. It says the missile was launched from Hawaii and reached its target on a Pacific atoll 2,300 miles away in less than half an hour. The advanced hypersonic weapon is part of a program to build a new type of high-precision conventional weapons. Its aim is to allow the U.S. military to strike targets anywhere in the world within an hour. A statement from the Pentagon said the advanced hypersonic weapon had glided through the upper atmosphere over the Pacific at hypersonic speeds before hitting its target on Kwajalein Atoll. The term hypersonic is defined as exceeding Mach 5 times the speed of sound, or 6,000 kilometers per hour. Earlier this year, a congressional report says the program was part of a project to develop a prompt global strike, a system that can deliver long-range weapons anywhere in the world while avoiding flying over third-party nations. The Pentagon did not say what the top speed reached by the missile was. So on one hand, okay, good that they built this missile, this big toy that can do this, but what are they going to use it for? Are they eventually going to turn it on the American people? They may say no, it's not for that purpose, but we know that these kind of things always get back to the American people. Like the LRAD they were using over in Iraq on the insurgents there, they now use in the States against people that are protesting. That's right, they're using the same weapon they were using in war over there against the American people. So I guess they believe there's a war against the people going on. So how soon before we hear these hypersonic weapons being used against the people of this country? Hopefully never. But unfortunately, the track record from those in power that do these kind of things isn't very good. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hopefully they'll do the right thing. Now our last story here is Bosnian pyramids. Check this out, just a hill or the most important archaeological discovery in decades. One that could rewrite history and show evidence of ancient energy technology still active and working right now. Now look at that. What does that look like? Does this look like a natural type of a hill? Or does it look like there's something underneath that hill? It's not really a trick question. It's not meant to fool your eyes. It's meant for you to understand that there is something underneath there. It's very definitely something underneath there. Skeptics are saying it's just a hill. That's what skeptics do. Mainstream academics are saying to each other, do not speak of it or you will be discredited. Certain government agencies and bodies are blocking the way to detailed investigations of and Wikipedia says scientific investigations of the site show that so-called pyramids are natural formations and that there are no signs of human building involved. Again, look at this. Is this a natural formation? They look like they are all pretty, I don't know, looks like what we see is the pyramids, kind of equal sides. This doesn't look like it's a natural. Looks a little bit unnatural. A few weeks ago, a very dear friend of mine came back from the site and sent me the amazing photo taken with his iPhone. A week after that, I attended my talk at a local village by the lead archaeologist, Sarah Okonani, and other members of the team who visited the site. A lot of people are reluctant to acknowledge that it even exists, but here is truth. I see it as so far based on photos and other facts presented. Underneath the hill in Bosnia is what appears to be the largest and oldest pyramid currently known to us. Carbon dating of material inside the pyramid has shown the age of approximately 10,000 years BC. Geologist evidence matches, saying the vegetation growth on top indicates an age of at least 12,000 to 14,000 years old, both of which makes this much, much older, I understand, than ancient Egyptian pyramids. It stands at a height of nearly 220 meters, towering over the 145-meter Great Pyramid of Egypt. The slope is made of a concrete conglomerate, believed to be many times stronger than anything we currently have in existence. What causes a lot of confusion in these pyramids is that these pyramids, 5 in all, appear to have been built on what seems to be a naturally occurring hills, so skeptics are dismissing the whole valley as a naturally occurring phenomena. Yet look at this naturally occurring 90-degree water channel, banked by 90% crystalline dry stone walling. This very, very gently flows into the center of the pyramid. Okay? So very interesting pictures here. And look at this, and is this a naturally occurring event? I think not. Okay? So we've got the article online. You can read through that. Again, does that look man-made or does that look natural? Certainly looks man-made to me. Alright, there you go. That's our stories for today. Let me jump away for a moment. I'll be right back and we will continue on.
You know, more people get news and information now from alternative media like First Contact with Joshua Poet. It's now becoming a legitimate form of news and information, and that's important, and Joshua Poet takes it very seriously, and every one of these stories is heavily researched before it goes out there, so that it's guaranteed to have nothing but the truth.
Alright, thank you very much, Dirk. Okay, I've been telling you we have an interview, and this is the time. Peter Robbins and I had a conversation a couple days ago, and here it is for your listening pleasure. Very insightful. If you recall, Peter wrote the book Left at East Gate. So without further ado, this is Peter Robbins.
All right, hello everybody. We have a guest on the show today, Peter Robbins. Now he's been here before, so he's no stranger to First Contact Radio. Just to refresh your memory, Peter Robbins is one of the best-known investigative writers and speakers with regard to the study of UFOs and their implications. He's been involved in the field for more than 30 years as a researcher, investigator, writer, lecturer, activist, and author. A regular fixture on radio shows across the country, he has also appeared as a guest and has been a consultant on numerous television shows and documentaries, and is also co-author of the British bestseller Left at East Gate, a first-hand account of the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident, its cover-up and investigation. Peter, welcome back to First Contact Radio. How are you today?
Joshua, fine. It's good to be back with you on the air.
Certainly. Well, we're glad to have you here. So last time that you were on, we were talking about your book. We were talking about the Rendlesham incident, and you were getting ready to go off to the anniversary last December. So what kind of new information and updates did you find there that you're able to share with anybody?
Well, for anyone that has been following the case closely, the information that kind of came out at this 30th anniversary conference was quite interesting, and we will be following up and building on that in an upcoming conference this coming June. What happened was last December was indeed the 30th anniversary of the event, and a number of folks here in the States and certainly all over the United Kingdom were looking forward to some kind of event, even a series of talks or something modestly set to mark the occasion. And as we were coming into last autumn, nobody had been able to pull it together. And I received a note on my Facebook page from an old friend in Suffolk, UK, which is the site of where these events took place in 1980. Gordy Godger, Goodger, who organized a talk for my co-author and I when we were on our 15-city speaking tour back when the book was a bestseller. And he said, I'm frustrated that this is the case, and if you'd like, I'll put together something where you and Larry can come to Suffolk and speak to folks. I thought that would be great. Talked to Larry about it. Mm-hmm. And Larry kind of caught me off guard. He was particularly magnanimous, and he said, so many people are aware of my account, either by reading the book or seeing us on television or hearing us speak over the years. Let's give this one to Jim and John, meaning Jim Penniston and John Burroughs, the two other leading witnesses who have come out over the past years, both involved on the first night and I believe John on the second. And they snapped it up, and on December 28th, which would have been the exact to-the-day 30th anniversary of the last night's incident, we were packed to overflowing with 400-plus people in the Woodbridge Suffolk Community Center. And myself and Linda Howe spoke, as did Jim and John. Larry was more interested in just being there. He came up and said a few words, and Nick Pope also graciously lent his time, although Nick appeared on the panel with us but did not give a talk. And not surprisingly, and appropriately, the center of attention was Jim and John. And they chose that night to make some new information public, although it was hardly new. And this is something that, again, a number of your listeners are certainly aware of, that on the first night, to compress things a bit, they encountered a craft of undetermined origin in the woods. I would guess remote controlled. It was, I think, about 7 feet on each side and tapered upward in a triangular shape. It had the appearance of black glass. There were markings on it. Call them hieroglyphics or symbols or what have you. I don't know if we have a word for it. Mm-hmm. And there are bits of missing time here that the men experienced and are still trying to work through with therapists, hypnotherapists. But among other things, Jim impulsively touched the craft, and he told us on that night that when he did, literally pages of binary code downloaded into his head. Now, I'm talking about something here I've still yet to fully wrap my head around, and I'm doing my best to educate myself to what he said, but that in the same notebook, which has been used in a number of documentaries about the event, showing the little drawings in his handwriting, he then copied out like 11 pages of ones and zeros. And I understand that people who are knowledgeable in this binary code have broken the code, and that there is a message in there from these other intelligences. The reaction in the audience was palpable, more than just about any other audience I can remember. These people not only were informed about the event they were there to learn more about, but most of them being local, grew up with this as the most singular impacting event of the life in the region. And many people in the audience were civilian witnesses to one part or another. There were a number of retired military personnel there, British, who also had, experienced or seen bits of what had happened. And they were angry. They were angry, in part because why have you waited 30 years to come forward about this? Well, Larry left the service with an honorable discharge 6 months after the event in May of 1981. Jim and John stayed in. I believe they were both in the Air Force for over 20 years. I can only imagine the ramifications of speaking out on something like this while they were in the service. But they were also filming a documentary with Linda Howe on this part of the events. And it became more frustrating to the audience because Jim would not kind of reveal the whole thing because they were holding that for this television documentary. So it was quite emotional and somewhat frustrating, but very moving as well. And no more than when John was answering questions. And John has got to be 6'5". He's a big guy. He's imposing. He's well-spoken. He's passionate. But he is haunted by whatever the hell happened to him that night. And I know that some folks who are hearing us now have seen him in conference, along with Linda in some cases, and very courageously airing segments of tapings of him under with his hypnotherapist. And he is terrified and allegorically, so to say, is so far not gone through that last door to find out what it is that is engendering so much fear. But as I mentioned to you the other day, a question came up. John, is it true, as I've heard, that when you encountered this object in the woods, you pulled your service weapon and went into a two-handed stance? And I'm characterizing this here. I don't have, the transcript in front of me. John, I'm not sure. It may have happened. I just don't know if it was real or a memory that was created. John, did you jump on the thing, as I've heard, and it went X amount of, distance with you before you let go? I don't know. I may have. I don't know if it's real memory or implanted. John, you abducted. I don't know. I'm still trying to get to that. And that night, at 11:30, after 5.5 hours of intense dialogue, about 150 of us and their film team accompanied us back to the old East Gate of RAF Woodbridge, where the lights were first sighted on that Monday, on that first night of events. And they spoke for half an hour, 40 minutes. It was very compelling and quite an end to a very memorable evening. And where we stand right now is Gordy and a colleague of his are once again taking on the imposing assignment of creating a follow-up conference, which will take place the weekend of June 16th and 17th, again back in Suffolk at the Woodbridge Community Center. And it will, again, feature myself and Larry and Jim and John. Okay. And in a touch that I think will put this conference over the top of being completely sold out, for the first time in 19 years, Travis Walton is returning to the United Kingdom.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, exactly. So the first day will be devoted to, I believe, mostly Jim and John and the new information that they say they're going to hold until that event. And the second day, I expect I'll be speaking. Travis will be speaking. We'll be screening Fire in the Sky, and he'll be taking questions afterwards. And as you can imagine, we're really excited about it and very much looking forward to it.
That sounds like a good conference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen Travis at several different conferences, and they play Fire in the Sky quite often. I'm sure this guy has seen that movie over and over and over again.
Travis is a remarkable man.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, don't just have admiration and respect for him. I just love the guy. He is character to spare, and in the course of going from being, a fairly rural American working class logger to being a statesman for this extraordinary phenomena that we call, UFO abduction, he has become one of the most thoughtful and highly intentioned speakers I've ever heard in any subject. For me, his word is absolutely bond, and he is nothing if not patient and understanding, and I expect however many times he's seen that film, he may see it that many times again, or at least, be there at the screenings and then take every question that's put to him about it.
Right.
He, of course, we had him speak at Roswell when I was working for the city there, and I'm not sure if that was when you heard him talk, but
that's when I met him.
Now that was an amazing presentation, in part because in a weekend of terrific presentations, and I believe we had about a dozen absolutely outstanding speakers there, you couldn't jam a piece of paper into that room. When he was there, and you could have heard a pin drop. And
right, I remember that.
Night when we screened the film, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, very kind man, and just seems to be, a lot of high integrity, and just kind is the word that always comes to mind whenever I think of him, how kind he always was and humble.
Yeah, well, I think that's a mark of a truly great man or woman, and you've said it very well. There's a humility, there's a patience, and there's a compassion that come with having gone through something extraordinary, learn what lessons you can, and applying it to an understanding of the fact that a lot of people go through things that are life-changing, even if they're not, in giant wiggly capital letters and make world news as his abduction did. And let's remember, the reason it went out on the wire services and was news all over the world for the, 4 or 5 days that he was missing, was because of, in terms of the absolutely unemotional, sarcastic, tabloid-minded media, that his friends, his coworkers, had reported him as being, knocked unconscious or killed by a blue beam of light from a very close-up UFO, and then they themselves were accused of murder and hiding.
Right.
And that in itself made that newsworthy all around the world.
Right. Quite a fascinating story. So,
Big time. And his book, Fire in the Sky, is, of course, highly recommended by you and I.
So I wanted to ask you your thoughts on, with the UFO phenomena where it is these days. Now, Stephen Bassett has, made great strides to get this petition, and the White House is now coming out with what they say is a response, which is really the typical no response that we usually get from them. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah. I like Steve. I consider him an esteemed colleague, and I tremendously admire his activism. He is the only person we have in the so-called Beltway area that is those of us who take this subject extremely seriously and would like others to do so as well, and to be educated to the reasons why we take it seriously. And I'm not talking about, far out accounts or some kind of New Age nonsense. I'm talking about the same kind of evidence that one could present in a court of law, declassified government documents, physical evidence, multiple witnessing, etc. But what Steve has done here is mount an international effort that's focused right now in this country and kind of spread out to the exo-political community around the world, that Americans that want, this subject to not just to be brought to the attention of the executive branch and movers and shakers in Washington, but to create a movement that I think he is sort of basing on the anti-war movement of the 60s and early 70s that contributed tremendously to our leaving Vietnam and ending a very wrong war that was built on principles that simply were fictitious. The idea of the domino theory that if we allowed South Vietnam to fall, then the rest of Southeast Asia would fall to the communists like dominoes, and that simply did not happen. Steve was able to raise and submit at the point that he did, because I think signatures are probably going to keep coming in, a 25,000-person petition, which is, of course, respectable. However, the government, and no matter what any of us feel in terms of the current government, or whether we see ourselves on the left or the right or the Tea Party or the Occupy movement, Republicans, Democrats, is a non-issue. The fact is that every single administration, in effect, treated this subject the same, which is to ignore it and every once in a while, where necessary, to downplay it. The White House says there is no evidence of life beyond Earth, and have literally used the Paradigm organization that Steve runs as an opportunity to restate this. And the quote is, the U.S. government has no evidence that any life exists outside a planet or that an extraterrestrial presence has contacted or engaged any member of the human race. Now, that is such a huge, as far as I'm concerned, respectfully, a huge lie that, but it's said with a straight face. And then, of course, the strategy is to say, but, we're fascinated by the subject and we take it seriously as a possibility. And even though we're not looking right behind us or right in front of us or in our own skies, we are, of course, pushing the SETI project, the Mars Science Laboratory, and the Kepler astronomical telescope and all that stuff. It's infuriating and, for me, completely expected. And I think, we will see how things shake down over the next weeks and months. But I think that it's kind of a shame that all of this effort that has gone into creating this petition and submitting it to government has now been used as their opportunity to dismiss it yet once again.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm trying to figure how, to take the next step. I expect that if we haven't already, Steve will be sending out some kind of memorandum on just that. But for me, the answer is not another 25,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 signatures. They'll simply say it again. And the mantra for the naive, for the uninformed, for the skeptical, no, not the skeptical. We should all be skeptics on this, and good hard ones, and the debunkers, and those with an interest in terms of the power structure of keeping things just the way they are. And most of us in the human race swimming underwater or sleepwalking our way through our lives, is it can't be. Therefore it isn't. Therefore it must be something else. Or if it were, surely it would have leaked by now. Well, of course it has 1,000 times, but it doesn't end up on the nightly news. It doesn't end up on, major news services on the Internet or the front page of the New York Times. It ends up, on a UFO chat site or the MUFON Journal or another very small relative venue for the converted who already take this seriously. So
Absolutely.
we're in a quandary here, for sure.
it just seems really irresponsible of the government and the media the way they propose it, because at the same time they'll say things like there's an alien invasion to be prepared for. And I've heard it on Fox, I've heard it on CNN, I've heard Michio Kaku come on and talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, how could they talk about an alien invasion and then have a statement like this? This is just irresponsible of them, and it just fits right in. You know, how do you know that the Obama administration is lying? Their lips are moving. So if this is the statement that they're making, then what's the opposite? That there is something out there. We have evidence, and we have been communicated with. So,
well, indeed, Josh. And, of course, let's remember that you can substitute the Obama administration, just put in the blank there, every and any administration since and including President Truman's administration.
Right.
It's just, you know, there's only two things going on. There's love and there's fear. They have different manifestations. They have different names. Fear, contraction, anxiety, you know, go down the list. And I think part of the problem here is institutional and the rest is theoretical. Number one, if you think about how a pearl forms, it's a piece of sand that layers and layers of the substance manufactured by the pearl's owner create this beautiful thing. But it is an irritant, and you have built up layers around the irritant that make it a little more easy to carry around. If we were to admit, you know, if the president were to go on TV tonight and say, my fellow Americans, it's my solemn duty to blah, 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 number one, he and every other American president from Truman on down would kind of have to be seen on a certain level as an unindicted co-conspirator in the greatest conspiracy to keep the most important truth from the people of this country and the world. And that's bad PR. It would also damn the Republicans and the Democrats. It would also make our military crazy. I think rather than hiding a huge amount of what we know, and what we know is purely theoretical, a great deal of the secret-keeping history and apparatus may be in response to how little we have learned over the last 64 years or whatever it's been now. And, you know, we're dealing with a world of guys who are in the most powerful positions in world government. And the illusion of power can be more important than the actual power. If this comes out, then everything's up for grabs. We're no longer the biggest flea on the back of the cosmic dog. And the implications in terms of the fundamentalist religious community as opposed to the religious community at large, who I think will fare through this, you know, serviceably and come out still believing in God and moving forward. If anything, this will underscore the nature of, you know, the miracle of creation, so to say, out to the edges of the cosmos. But for anyone, and please understand, this is not in any way associated with any specific religion. Fundamentalism is also absolutely applicable to secular thinking. It implies a tremendous rigidity of thought. And if you are open to a little latitude in interpretation, Buddhists will do better with this than fundamentalist Christians or fundamentalist Muslims. All one needs to do is study the history of these religions to see why. But these are some of the implications. Also, as friend and colleague Stanton Friedman has pointed out on numerous occasions, the name of the game here is technology and military technology. Whoever gets this, you know, if we have effectively fully back-engineered what we have captured from the event in Roswell in 1947, and been able to apply that, or are able to apply that to advanced weapon systems, we win, or we win for now, because it's it's not apples and oranges. It's, you know, knives against machine guns, basically. And, you know, screw all of the, you know, welcome the Space Brothers and anything that we can learn from this or apply in a life-affirmative manner. And that is part of the nature of the crisis that we face right now in terms of government and in terms of perception.
Absolutely. Well, I believe the truth is going to come out sooner than later, and that will be to all of our benefits. I want to turn our attention to another subject. Speaking of truth and truth seekers, not too long ago, we certainly lost one of them, and a dear friend of yours, Bud Hopkins. I was wondering if you might want to speak to any of your, fond memories of Bud and some of the things that that you knew of him.
Yeah. Bud passed away in August at the age of 80 after having fought quite a battle against leukemia for years and then liver cancer, which proved fatal. And yeah, you're right, Josh. He was a dear friend as well as an esteemed colleague, a mentor, somebody I worked with and worked for over the decades. And I guess I'm one of the luckiest people because I got to spend a good part of 35 years with him, and a part of that at his side in investigation into what many of us consider the greatest mystery that we are facing here on Earth. Bud was a good man, but he was also a great man. And for people listening who are not familiar with him, I will say he was a highly respected artist, specifically best known for his paintings, which kind of came out of abstract expressionism. And the marvelous work, I have to say. He also is the dean, the father, the most significant individual in the then literally unknown field, going back to the 1970s here, of UFO-related abduction research. Some people say, alien abduction. I think the word is misleading because we don't know, again, what we're really dealing with here. I think it's logical to think that we're talking about intelligences from out there somewhere. But again, with respect to what we don't know, kind of you like to use a little latitude with language here. And at a time when literally all of his colleagues and individuals in the field coming out of the 60s and into the 70s were focusing their attention on documents, very important, lights in the night sky, military, radar reports, anomalous objects observed by credible witnesses. Bud was turning his attention to the intelligences that built and operate these things, what they're doing here, what they're doing with many, many more people than most people would be comfortable even considering of individuals worldwide that this phenomenon touches. And he, at first, almost single-handedly, he did. He carved out an area of research, and, it's amazing the resources that we have in us. Bud was a trained painter, and a good one. And coming from that same background, being a graduate of New York's Distinguished School of Visual Arts, and I'm proud to say a faculty member there on their continuing education painting faculty for many years, we were trained to think out of the box and to not look at things maybe with the normal eye of somebody, in the business world or what have you, not to demean anybody in the business world, but his natural abilities as an investigator or detective would have been highly regarded by any police organization in the world, and we interfaced with many people in law enforcement over the years, some who were abductees or experiencers, however you want to use that word, others who joined with us in helping us to investigate. And he is not just a fine writer, he was an uncannily fine writer. I had the privilege of proofreading a lot of his work as it came out of the printer, and in a lighthearted way, it used to irritate the hell out of me. I don't know anybody that ever nailed it better on the first draft. I was struggling with paragraphs and left at East Gate, 6 years into revisions, published, 9-10 years later. But he was just able to hit the mark repeatedly. He was phenomenally courageous, had a world-class curiosity, but was informed Well, the thing for me that I'll never, ever forget is his basic humanity and his kindness and his patience with the people who came to him. He was a lot of fun, too. He had a great sense of humor. He loved his life. He was aware that the New York City art world, which is a rather unforgiving entity, when he began to write about UFOs, and then certainly in 1981 when his first book, Missing Time, was published, giving the English lexicon yet one more important phrase,
Right.
And broke the subject open big time. Up until then, it was, let's take a look at Betty and Barney Hill's incident again, the seminal first case in modern abduction studies. He became someone who, for some snooty intellectuals in the art field, was less respected because, if you're an artist living and working in New York in the international marketplace, you're not supposed to be involved in something like that. It does not reflect well on your ivory tower mentality. And I'm serious here. And it infuriated me because it didn't affect his work in anything. He was all the more passionate about the times that he could grab, which were increasingly few because of his dedication to this field. Also, some people that know him, as an author, speaker, an investigator, and a very positive presence are not aware that his work is in New York's Museum of Modern Art, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art on Fifth Avenue, in museums and collections all over America, all over Europe, and I know in Asia as well. He has left a remarkable legacy, and for those of us who were lucky enough to know him, we're the better for it. And for me, part of my grieving process has been to, with good people like you, allowing me to spend a few minutes talking about him.
Sure.
I have two published pieces, one for any of your listeners who are subscribers to Open Minds magazine. There's a remembrance by me of Bud in that. And anyone who would like to read a completely other treatment, you can subscribe to a wonderful British online, two online free monthlies on the paranormal. One called, I think it's Mindscape, and the other Phenomena magazine.
Okay.
So make a note of those and subscribe to those. But, it's funny, Josh. The longer you live, the more people you lose, and that's part of the nature of life. And
right.
No big surprise. And losing somebody who has lived an amazingly full life at 80 years old is not a tragedy. And then, last month the memorial we had for him in New York was really lovely and really, if he had been there, we would have had a great time. But otherwise, we did as good as we could. But I still miss him tremendously and always will. And again, I'm one of the lucky ones because I actually got to know him better than a lot of people and try to carry some of his values through too in the work that I continue to do.
Well, that sounds great. And as you said, the world is a better place, not only because he was here, but because of the information he left behind for future researchers to continue on with, where he started.
That's well said. And like any true pioneer, especially in the world of science or history, or a truly, truly original, a new area of study, you're attacked like crazy until, reality proves you right. And Galileo probably would not have been burned at the stake by the Catholic Church if they had been more enlightened. And it's nice that they've apologized in the past decade for doing that, for him having the heresy to even suggest that the Earth revolves around the sun rather than the Earth being the center of the universe.
Right.
For some people I know, it's the center of the universe, and they're in the center of that universe. But we are a speck of dust in the cosmos that is trying to figure out what we're doing here and not destroy itself too quickly, although sadly the world of men seems very committed to doing just that.
Sometimes it seems that way. So, Peter, how would somebody get in touch with you? Like, do you have a website that they can go to? Where would they contact you?
Great question. Thanks. I have a site, but it's really kind of dead in the water right now. I hope to have a new website up by the end of this year or early next year. In the meantime, anybody is welcome to contact me through my Facebook page, and there are a couple of us Peter Robbins is there, so sort it out, and you'll figure it out. Or they can just email you, and you can forward it on to me. But I'm out there, and my next talk will be in the Philadelphia area on the, ironically, I hope it doesn't bode poorly, on the 22nd of November, the anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. I am upbeat that nothing bad will happen. And it will be on the Rendlesham Forest incident. Also, planning ahead a little bit more, I'm very excited to say that I will be a speaker at next year's International UFO Congress, held under the auspices of Open Minds magazine, the Open Minds organization, this coming February in Phoenix. And last year was their first year taking over this almost 20-year institution that had been going on annually in Laughlin, Nevada, and they did brilliantly. I actually had work across town in a completely unrelated area for that part of February, but I got to get over there at least once, and they pulled in somewhere between 12 and 1,500 people. And the old conference was mind-boggling. As you know, it was 7 days with up to 30 speakers from 10 countries.
Mm-hmm.
4 days with 20 speakers ain't bad. And it is quite a lineup, and you can simply go to the Open Minds website to find out information on that, or IUFOC, International UFO Congress. Google it and click.
Excellent. Well, Peter, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll have to have you on again sooner than later next time.
Well, Josh, I'm glad to, and speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, very good. That is Peter Robbins, and you can go back and listen to that. It'll be up at our page all weekend long, and it'll be up first at our YouTube page forever. All right, let's prepare for our meditation. So what I want you to do is go ahead and close your eyes. And relax. All right. I want you to imagine that you are walking down a path. And just ahead of you on the path, you see a place to sit and relax. And you look behind you and you see how far that you have walked along this journey. And you realize all the things that you have accomplished over the course of this past week. Take a moment to think about those things, the successes that you had, the lessons that you learned, the people that you met, the projects that you've become involved with, the things that are no longer serving you that you let go of. And take a moment just to give thanks to the great Creator for all of the opportunities you had during the course of this week, and for all of the opportunities you have coming up in the near future in your life. Let's imagine that all our chakras are turned on. Red at the bottom of the spine, yellow, orange above that at the belly button, yellow at the solar plexus, green at the heart, blue at the throat, violet at the third eye, and indigo at the top of your head, the crown chakra. Imagine all the energy flowing through your body, filling your body with this multicolored light and then overflowing. And as it overflows, notice the spiritual line around you, the light around you. This is your spiritual armor extending itself from the inside out. Imagine this light of protection all around you, filling the space where you live. Extending that light of protection out to the city, to the state, to the country where you live, and then imagine it going across the ocean to all of the other countries around the planet. Let's imagine sending love right now to everyone on the planet. To all of your friends, to all of your enemies. Send to everyone, my friends, send to everyone. For the only way we can transform things is if we all transform by love. And now, holding that thought of love in your heart, let's just wish everybody a good weekend, a safe time, a loving time. And with that, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it, my friends. That's our show. That's our prayer and our meditation. Hope you enjoyed the interview with Peter Robbins. You can go back and listen to it over and over again. In the meantime, you have a great weekend. It's been a pleasure being here with news and information. Dirk and I will be back again next week with the latest, greatest information we can bring to you to keep you informed about what's really going on in the world. Till then, be safe. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.